welcome back to the War Room. My name is Dillon Jewett, and with me today is Ayush and Pierce Allen, who is not a special guest this time. He is a co-host of ours, so he's going to be joining us long term for the podcast. So happy to have you on, Pierce.
Hey, thank y'all so much for the opportunity.
Yeah, we're gonna. Yeah, absolutely, and yeah, Pierce is a good friend of mine, just like Ayush is. But yeah, Pierce is going to be joining us weekly. So, yeah, we're going to get this going here in a couple minutes, though. Today, we're going to be talking about our near end of season awards for the typical run of the mill MVP, Offensive Player of the Year, Rookies of the Year, et cetera. But yeah, before we get into that, I'm representing my fallen soldier today, Lamb. Bad news. He is out for the season. The week I need him to play against Ayush in our fantasy football championship in the offsides in our old offsides league with all of our writers. CD's out, but and Ayush is like injury free too. I'm down Chris Olave. Who am I down? Chris Olave, CD, Demont, there's David Montgomery, and who else? Diggs, Stephon Diggs. I'm still gonna beat him.
Good
It's
lord.
pretty cool. And
I get
he's
that.
down Kenneth Walker, but I will say Kenneth was gonna be a backup for him anyways because Kenneth has been a little bit spotty here and
I
there.
can't believe it started for
But
me.
Yes, he would have started.
Yeah, I also
Oh,
have
you got
Garrett
a
Mitch
pretty
or Gardner
crappy
Minshew
lineup
on
then.
IR. Gardner Minshew would have started for me.
Yeah, your team sucks. Whoever's managing our team is does not know ball, bro. Uh,
Okay, bro. We'll see.
anyways, yeah. So there's your update on the sweepstakes. Ayush barely won because he decided to play Jordan Love over Lamar Jackson. There's your this really
Hey,
this is our fantasy expert like
ratings. I'm all about ratings here, bro. I had to make it close.
ratings. You're
Yeah,
all about ratings. Okay, whatever. Yeah, so he's all about rating us apparently, ladies and gentlemen. So expect our ratings to just like go through the roof on this podcast. We're gonna have like 100,000 listeners like next week because
exactly.
Ayush's devotion to ratings. Um, yeah. So again, Paris, happy to have you on. He's been on for a couple episodes as a guest. So now he's gonna be a co-host with us, and yeah, we're all gonna talk ball together. Also, I don't think I said this yet, but Merry Christmas to everyone. I hope you guys had a wonderful Christmas, or whatever you celebrate. Hope you guys had a great week and a lot of family time, and friend time and that type of stuff. Now we're about to wrap up the year and head into the new year, so excited about that as well. A lot of things to look forward to and a lot of problems to not look forward to, I guess, coming into 20. We'll deal with that later. That's for another time. Anyways, so yeah, we're gonna get this thing rolling. I'm not gonna start with MVP. Probably, I think let's invert it. So we're gonna keep our listeners like on the edge of their seat, so they have to listen all the way through. We're gonna make you guys listen all the way through. There's probably like no one even live right now, but
Hey,
yeah,
we
Sure,
gotta
you
keep
guys
surely
them
will
on
go
got
their
a
back and
crowd.
toes.
listen. I know it, of course.
Keep them
But
on their toes, man.
yeah, I'm sure we got a giant crowd right now. Uh,
Surely.
but anyway, so let's start with comeback player of the year. Pierce, it's your first time on the episode as a host instead of a guest. So I'm gonna point the finger at you and have you get us started here.
Well, it was a list that I was work. It was a award that I was torn on quite a bit actually, but just based off of performance on the field and record, I would say. I mean, I most of the guys, most of the quarterbacks, I would say the guys that I was picking, their injuries were season-ending or career altering, but they didn't come back 100%, and their teams aren't succeeding or elevating as what in terms of what I would see. But the comeback player of the year that I had, I know it wasn't early in the season when he got hurt last year, but it was when Joe Burrow. He tore ligaments in his hand last year, and he's leading the league's best offense, yet the league's worst defense or second worst defense.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's had a really good statistical year. Just been really consistent every week of finding the right guy, whether it be Jamar Chase, T Higgins, or just having a backup running back, or not backup, but Brown. He's been
Yeah.
dynamic for the Bengals offense as well. But yeah, my comeback player of the year for 2024 and the 2025 NFL season is Joe Burrow.
Sweet. Ayush, what say you?
No, I said Joe Burrow as well. Basically for the same reasons. He's obviously been the best player coming off of injury this season, especially because now they changed kind of the criteria of comeback or clarified. I don't know if they changed it, but they clarified it to where it's a player that's coming off of injury, necessarily not someone that's breaking out like a Geno Smith was when he won it a couple years back, and when Flacco won it last year, I guess. So I feel like that kind of
Mm-hmm.
negates or that takes out guys like Sam Darnold off the list or for consideration. So I left him with Joe Burrow as well. Even though the record's not necessarily super great, his individual play's been great. And I think he's obviously, I mean, the only other guy that I would consider probably someone like Anthony Richardson or maybe Christian Gonzalez. But I think Joe Burrow is probably the most star-powered name that you could put in there, and also probably the most influential name that can win the award. And I think that'll be a second time winning it if he does win it, which I don't know if it's been done before, but
Mm.
he deserves it, I think.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't think about that. Yeah, I picked Joe Burrow too. I think this one was. I said beforehand that before we started the episode, I said there's two or three here that are like it's easy. We know who it is. It's pretty like with the there's no kind of controversy here. We knew it was going to be no, it was going to be Joe Burrow. So uh, don't be stunned, listeners, whenever that does happen. But uh, Pierce, you brought it up a second ago. The injury to his hands. It was throwing hand. I think it was right here. Um,
It was
those
yeah.
suck too. Because I know Dak had that. I don't think it was exactly, but it was a couple. It was
He broke
2022,
his
the first
thumb.
time Rush came onto the scene as getting playing. But it was like that. It's those little ligaments that are in there. It's such a simple injury. He can do everything that he needs to do, and I guess it is his thumb, so it does make that kind of sucks. But it sucks that you're fully functional in every single aspect of your life. He could probably still write with a pen and do everything, and it's just you can't go play ball. That's one of those injuries that is really difficult. Obviously, it's not
Hmm.
difficult to come back from. That's something that was probably probably the easiest rehab ever. But in terms of just the fact that it was such a no nothing type of injury, but it was so serious. At the same time, that kind of sucks. So I'm glad that he was able to come back. He's obviously played amazing football this season. It just, I think one of y'all, maybe both of y'all brought it up, but the defense is just so bad. He has no help on the opposite side of the football, um, and as good as he's been this year, they're probably not even going to get to it. Well, they might get to 500. That's a possibility, but they're not going to make the playoffs. I guess they're still in contention. I don't think they will, but just kind of a crappy little situation to be in because Joe's put up MVP numbers. He would if
Hmm.
he had a good defense, he would probably be. I feel like one of us would pick Joe Burrow as a MVP if it was the other way around and he had 10 wins this season and they were going to make the playoffs and all that. So, okay. Anyways, okay, so let's I guess we're going to go around in a circle here. I'm going to pass it off to you again, Pierce, here in just a second, but coach of the year, who you got?
Uh, Coach of the year. For me, there's been a couple surprises here and there for me. Um, you know, Dan Quinn jumping back into head coaching after
Yeah.
the past 2 years at Dallas, hitting the ground running with a good quarterback and Jaden Daniels, a good defense. A team that at one point, a lot of people were thinking was just going to get sold and that we're just going to become a poverty franchise. But now, fresh off of a win against a very good Eagles team. But if I had to pick, I mean, I would probably be the guy that I would pick as coach of the year. I mean, the record isn't amazing, but just the way Washington was last year, firing their head coach, their owner resigns, or do they just end up selling the team? And
Yeah.
then, Dan Quinn steps in. They hit free agency hard. They draft their guy at quarterback. They have weapons. Some would say underrated
Hmm.
weapons, but I mean Terry McLaurin before things crap hit the fan was one of the best
Yeah.
receivers in the game. So I mean, and with Dan Quinn's no all defense, it's just I
Hmm.
think that just Dan Quinn was the guy to bring into Washington, and he hired the right guy for I'd say for a college quarterback for Cliff
Hmm.
Kingsbury being the OC. He's done all the right things to hire the right
Yeah.
guys to match with his players to have a successful year one, which I feel like the next year, you hit the draft, you draft well, and draft a couple key pieces here and there. I think that Washington team will be around a lot longer than I think some people would say.
Yeah, I
So yeah,
think before we pass it on to you, Yush, I think Pierce, I think you brought up a really good point there too that I didn't even think about, and almost I have a different answer for who I'm going to do, but I almost am regretting the guy that I wrote down because of the point that you brought up about how the ownership change and how there's that type of battle too going in Washington because there was so much toxicity going on in that organization
hmm
with Snyder and everything that happened. And I didn't even think about that because Dan Quinn also had to tackle that monster because he had to rebuild. Obviously he can only control what's going on the field, but he had to rebuild that type of culture, bring that back, try and take away the kind of the residual of what was going on with the Snyder, saga, and uh, and he was able to help build and grow a football team that shouldn't be, had no business being what are they right now, 10-5, a 10-5 team
yeah,
that just beat the Eagles too, albeit without Hurts, but they're a very skilled team that I don't know how far they're going to get in the playoffs, but I think Dan Quinn has them in a really good position long term. So okay, what is your thoughts on Coach of the Year?
Yeah, I was stuck between a couple guys, but ultimately I went with Matt LaFleur. Had to shout out my guy. I think you look at what he's done with the youngest roster in the NFL. He's clinched a playoff spot in the toughest division in football this season. Um, I mean, he lost Jordan Love for 2, 3 games, went undefeated with Malik Willis at quarterback. Figured out how to wait. They kind of basically changed up their game plan to fit Malik Willis offensively and make it work. Um, and I mean, especially since Rodgers left, I think the team or the media, just people expected the Packers to kind of go into a complete rebuild, to at least take a couple years to restructure and kind of figure out what they're exactly going to do now that the big guy is gone. I just watched his documentary today, actually, the Enigma documentary on Netflix. It was interesting, but yeah, I mean, he's Matt LaFleur has completely brought in the culture that he wants to bring in, the scheme that he wants to bring in these past couple years, and brought him to the playoffs the past couple years too. So I think there's a lot of credit that he hasn't gotten that he should get. I think some of the credit also goes to Jeff Hafley that they brought in this season at defensive coordinator. But overall, I mean, um, he's done everything that he can do to keep this team afloat, keep them competitive, and uh, yeah, I think he's done a great job continuing to keep the Packers great.
Yeah, I definitely considered both of the two that y'all just said, but I ultimately ended up with Kevin O'Connell for the work that he's done with the Minnesota Vikings. I think, man, now that I think of it, I feel like we talked about the Vikings almost more than any team over these past couple like months on this
Yeah.
podcast. We talked about
That's
them a
true.
lot.
Yeah,
But um but yeah, Kevin O'Connell without, QB1, albeit, a rookie. But still. Um without starting left tackle, all the uh Kyrie Jackson passing away this offseason, uh, the Jordan Addison drama with his off the field issues. Just so much has gone on in and outside of that locker room that they've been able to battle through, and against all odds, they're sitting in a position where they could finish up winning the NFC. um, that's pretty impressive to me. I think that Kevin O'Connell's done a good job. He's helped weather the storm while also elevating guys, which is really, really difficult. And I've always kind of viewed him in that Jason Garrett type range, where he's someone that's kind of okay for now. He'll do the job. I think this year was a year that he kind of proved to me that, oh yeah, this is a guy that has, at least a couple more years with this team of good football, regardless of who's, personnel wise. I mean, I guess that very much does matter, but I think that he's going to be someone that's going to continue to help his team win a lot of football games over the next several years in Minnesota. So, yeah, good job to all these coaches. I think there was a lot of good coaching this year, to be honest. And also, I'm just gonna. This sounds weird, and I know I don't. I could go on such a long discourse, but I do want to shout out the coach of my team. I don't want him to be back in Dallas next year, but I will say being in the position that we're in right now is kind of impressive, and I think we're gonna start to lose these next two games probably. But Pierce, I know you can testify to that fact that Cowboys have been a little bit more impressive than they were before. But are you on Team McCarthy, or are you on Team
I'll be
move away
honest.
from McCarthy?
I'll be honest. I for a little bit I wasn't during, especially during the season, because I mean it's kind of ironic that we're talking about this because I just recently, you know, uh, Shannon and Stephen A were talking about it.
Yeah,
Um, they have nothing to lose. Like
yeah,
that Sunday night game, they played their arguably their best game of football I think I've ever seen this season,
yeah,
and they had already found out prior that they weren't making the playoffs. So my question, I mean, I don't want to go off on too far of a rabbit trail. I'm sitting here going, okay, why can't y'all play like that every game?
yeah.
Like if
Exactly.
y'all
There's
can
no level
play,
of consistency.
yeah, if you can force Tampa Bay, a pretty darn good football team, into multiple turnovers defensively when your defense was considered the weakest of the league, and then your offense does just enough to win that ball game, of course. That's still something that I think they need to address, though. I feel like because they don't
100%.
have
Yeah.
the necessary weapons offensively. But for a while, I was saying, dude, throw the bank at Ben Johnson, the OC at Detroit. Get him to come in and be Dallas's head coach. Yeah, yeah, you'd have the offensive scheme right there. But with how the season ended, I mean, I wouldn't be against it because you already have the like, okay, Dak was injured for the majority of the year. Like
Yeah.
the offense was bad, but that was at the beginning of the year. Later in the year, they did just fine,
Hmm. Yeah, I
or
think I
just
think at a
did
bare
just
minimum,
enough.
a new play caller needs to be brought
100%,
in
100%.
Dallas. But all right. Anyways, what do we got next? Okay, let's do defensive rookie of the year. This was an interesting one for me. I had to do a little bit of like
Little digging.
intense research, and it took me a little bit, but I finally came to my conclusion. But Pierce, go ahead.
I'm taking Quinion Mitchell, the corner out of Philadelphia.
Hmm.
Uh, I haven't didn't watch a ton of his film or the tape that he had, but the games that I did watch was him shutting down CD Lamb for a little bit. So
Yeah.
um, I think he's exceeded expectations, is what I thought for because you're playing behind Darius Slay and Marcus Bradbury for what would be a year, but here he is playing opposite of Slay, or Slay's in the slot, and he's playing opposite, and he's shutting down the best receiver on the other side. Because like I've
Hmm.
got stats from week 6 to 11. There wasn't one game where he allowed more than 3 catches, and
Really?
didn't and the most yards he gave up for that one for one of those games, it was against the Cincinnati Bengals. He only gave up 3 catches for 25
Yeah.
yards. Like the kid
That's
is
crazy.
a bona fide superstar or all pro corner coming up.
Hmm.
Like I wouldn't be surprised if he makes
Yeah.
a Pro Bowl this year because like
Hmm.
he's stepped into a good situation where he has good corners around him already, but he's also saying, "Hey, I belong in this league. Yeah, I went to Toledo in college, but I'm going to show you why I'm one of the best corners in this league already." And but yeah, that's my pick. He's done a really good job. I mean, I'm honestly like bamboozled by just how well he's been playing. Just by this, I'm just reading the stats. I'm reading the sheets,
Wow. Yeah, I'm
but
looking at him too right now. You're right. It's been three or less every single week. The first 4 weeks were a little bit they weren't bad by any means, but they were a little bit more shaky. But
yeah,
then
like a trial
as
by
soon
fire.
as
Like those are your like get your feet
Cleveland,
under you.
exactly, and that's reasonable because you were also going up against the Packers, the
Oh my
Falcons,
goodness.
and then the Saints when they were in their legendary mode,
There are two
uh,
weeks
and
of
then
50 plus
Bucks.
points. Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
that's
So
he's no slouch. I mean I feel like they're gonna have to make some discussions and some decisions in Philadelphia about their corners that they have now. Like Slay and Bradbury, if they're gonna move on from them or not.
yeah.
Because
Well, they also do. They also drafted Dejean as well,
Dejean's
or
not doing bad
Dijon, I think
either.
it is actually. Yeah, he's
I'm
doing
oh
pretty.
yeah,
He's doing pretty
Dijon,
well.
yeah, he's yeah that. But other than that, I mean, when I checked, it was Quinion Mitchell and then that kid out of Benson, or I think that's right, the linebacker out of the from the Rams. But yeah, I've got Quinion Mitchell as my defensive rookie of the
Mm.
year. I think he can be a perennial All Pro by the end of his career.
Yeah, I agree, and that's what I saw whenever I scouted him too, coming out of Toledo. He has the ceiling that teams are like crawling over other teams to get these types of players, and obviously that's what the Eagles ended up doing when they drafted him, brought him in, and he's had a very good young career so far. Okay, Yush, what is your pick for Defensive Rookie of the Year?
This was tough, honestly. Like, there's just a bunch of guys that are just playing well, but there's no one that really like stands out.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think it was kind of like that last year too, but I think this year is even more just like a group of really solid guys. But I honestly just went with the guy I knew best, and that's Edgerrin Cooper. Um, I think, I mean, he hasn't played a ton, he's not even getting like 50% of snaps. But I mean, when he's on the field, it is absolutely insane. He is a game wrecker.
Hmm.
He's able to find gaps. He gets
Yeah,
behind the line of scrimmage almost immediately. Um, if y'all watch the New Orleans game just on Monday, Quay Walker was out and he
yeah.
completely like
He made a
took
big.
his
Yeah, I remember he
opportunity.
made
Yeah,
one big play in particular that was like huge. Was
yeah.
it?
I
What
mean,
was it? Like a? Did he get an interception or something? I remember he made a big play.
I think that
Was
was
it a
the week
sack?
prior. The
oh
week
yeah, he
prior, he
had.
had like a sack and a half, a pick, and was all over the
Mm,
field. Like
yeah,
Gotcha. That's probably what I'm thinking of then.
the Sunday
yeah.
night,
See,
this past 2 Sundays ago, I
yeah,
think.
against the Seahawks. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
against.
he's a stud. Like I agree with what you're saying, bro. He's a stud.
Yeah,
Just
I
give him
mean,
more snaps in the future.
exactly. I mean, Packers fans have been begging for it. Packers coaches seem content with Quay Walker for some reason, but um, yeah, I mean, under 40% of snaps, he has 63 tackle or almost 70 tackles on the season, 3.5 sacks, a pick, 4 pass deflections, a forced fumble recovery. He's been pretty solid in coverage as well. I mean, he's just been absolutely amazing in my opinion. And we'll see if I mean he has two defensive player of the weeks as well. I don't know how much that goes into consideration for the actual
Yeah.
yearly awards, but that's there too. But um, he's for sure been an absolute beast for the Packers, and yeah, I think if I had to choose who the media will pick, it probably like Verse or something, just because he's been really consistent this year for the Rams. But once again, it's just there's no guys that really pop out on paper, and I think that's the biggest problem for a lot of voters this year.
Yeah, this is the one that for me it took the longest time to figure
Hmm.
out who I was going to put down. Um, I think the same could be said for the defensive player of the year, actually, as well as the defensive rookie of the year that we're talking about. Just defense in general, there's not been a lot of. There's been, I'm not saying that every single defense in the league has been trash. I'm just saying that there hasn't been a lot of particular standout players, whether it be rookie or vet. Um, but yeah, I ended up sticking with Jared Verse. I'm not happy about that pick. I think any one of our picks could be like earning it. The numbers that you were saying, Pierce, about Quinion Mitchell, those were number. I wasn't looking at his particular week by week. I just saw in general he had put up. I don't know. I think it was like 300, 400 yards allowed this year. But like particularly looking at these past couple months now, I'm kind of unsure about my pick of Verse, but and Edgerrin Cooper has been playing at a high level as well. I think ultimately these are going to be the three guys that three, or at least the kind of front runners for this award. Maybe I'm missing a name or two, but yeah, I ended up with Jared Verse, not in a em, em, emphatic manner, I guess. Okay, so this next one is going to be. This is a very difficult one to pick as well, but not because it was like picking, who actually played decent football. It's because we're trying to decide which offensive rookie of the year is the best because there are so many names here. Obviously we have Jaden Daniels. Obviously there's Bo Nix. Heck, Brock Bowers has put himself firmly into this conversation, in my opinion. Brian Thomas has put himself firmly into this conversation, in my opinion, especially after this last week. But just so much talent on the offensive side of the football for this youth. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that these past two um, draft classes have been really supercharged on the offensive side. So I think that's brought for a lot of entertaining offensive football. Um, uh, okay, Pierce. So who you got for offensive rookie of the year?
Well, it was a tight toss up for me. You brought up two of the three that I had in mind because I'm gonna start with ironically my second place. It's tied for me. It was a 1A 1B, but there can only be one. But Bo Nix, I think he honestly he exceeded my expectations for this year. Uh, I thought it was going to be struggle. It was going to be a struggle bus for him to understand, Sean Payton's playbook. I mean, Sean Payton's one of the brightest minds, since Drew Brees first got into the league, or, or I would say since Brees got to New Orleans. But 3,235 yards, 22 touchdowns to 11 picks, not that bad of a stat line for your rookie year. You're gonna have your rookie mistakes, but I mean, just I watched him this past Christmas or this past week. Jaden Daniels, just looks like he's been there. He's been in the league already a year or two. The way he plays ball, it's just he's calm, he's collected, and I mean, he has similar stat lines to Bo Nix. I mean, he's got 3,303 yards and 22 touchdowns and 8 picks. Uh, but I would say just his ability to win, like tough games,
Mm-hmm.
tough matchups. I feel like that's what really just separated Jaden Daniels from Bo Nix because just this Philadelphia game, they were down by three or down by, yeah, they were down by three. He marched them down the field with less than a minute left, and scored the game-winning touchdown. So it's like that's also a good situation. You got a good head like I brought up earlier with Dan Quinn, just a good situation with a good head coach who brought in, I'd say, the right OC for a guy like Jaden Daniels, who has a good history. Cliff Kingsbury just having a good history with other young quarterbacks that are mobile as well. Uh, Give a little nudge to Johnny Football, but we'll talk about that later. But just Jaden Daniels, he's going to be a stud in this league as well, as long as the injury bug doesn't bite him at all. But yeah, and for this year, I've got Jaden Daniels. He's been a pretty good, consistent. He's been a pretty good. He's a solid football player, man. Like, I'm excited to see what next year can happen for him. I mean, I just go easy on my Cowboys for the end of the year, right? So, but no, Jaden Daniels, I think he wins it, and it's going to be tight because again, Brock Bowers played well as well, and Bo Nix as well. But yeah, I got Jaden Daniels this year.
All right, but how about you, Ayush?
Man, Pierce took literally all the words I was going to say out of my mouth. Daniels is my pick too. Um, just like Pierce said, I mean, absolutely dynamic player. Um, that clutch gene of his has been on display, like I think like 5 games already this season, which is crazy, you know. So he's dynamic with his arm, he's dynamic with his legs. I think a lot of people thought he wouldn't be as good of a thrower as he has been already in the league. Um, I mean, I was already surprised that he was good in LSU after seeing him at Arizona State, how mediocre he was, you know. So
Mhm.
it's pretty cool to see how he's been doing. I think what also gives him an edge is just I think Bo Nix figured it out just a couple weeks later than Jaden Daniels did. And Daniels just has kind of that ledge up and more cleaner football from earlier on in the season. Um, Bo's been great too. I think he's going to be great as well in the league. Especially if he gets more consistent weapons from both the run. I think we talked about it last week in the run game and the pass game as well. But I think Jaden is my pick. I think the only reason I wouldn't give it to Bowers is just because I kind of could be similar to kind of the Herbert Jefferson debate a couple years ago, and it ended up going to Herbert,
Mm.
just because of like the quarterback pedestal that people have, you know. Because Bowers is having an absolutely insane year. He's been the best tight end this year, I think. Um, has literally every good tight end took a drop in production for whatever reason. But yeah, I think Daniels is gonna run away with it. The record's great. He got into the playoffs after a terrible year the year before, and he's been absolutely on fire these past couple of weeks as well.
Go Tigers. You know who I got to pick. Come on. Uh, yeah. I'm an LSU alum, by the way. I've said this on this podcast, but just to emphasize that to all of our um, listeners. But yeah, this has been a really impressive year from Jaden Daniels. I feel like I'm as a evaluator and a scout that I'm pretty. I try to keep bias out of it as much as possible. But I saw a lot of this dynamic aspect at LSU, as did really anyone. But this guy has a it factor to him that is really impressive. I think this is going to be someone that, for maybe less years down the road, he's going to be up there in these MVP conversations. And I wouldn't be surprised if, sometime in the near future, if he's going to actually take home that type of award. Um, this this guy's very special, and I think the experience aspect, because he was one of the most, and this has been something that's happened a lot more with the transfer portal and NIL coming into the picture. In addition to the fact that the COVID year added an extra year of eligibility, but there's a lot more vetted type of quarterbacks coming into the league over these past couple seasons, and that remains consistent through this year. But Jaden came into league, his first, by the time he was taking his first snaps, he was almost 24. He was highly experienced, um, to the tune of only guys like Bo Nix and Sam Hartman were more experienced than him coming out of school. And that's only because they came out of school at 80 years old. But yeah, Jaden's very skilled, and the fact that he's able to have these magic moments, that's what sets him apart from Bo Nix. Bo has a lot of the same numbers. I think Jaden still has better numbers, but uh, Jaden also has the special moments late game, as recent as last week too, with the last second walk off touchdown. So yeah, Jaden is the easy pick for me, honestly. And yeah, so that's offensive rookie of the year. But yeah, man, this rookie offensive rookie of the year class is just special, man. There's a lot of
Yeah, agreed.
new special talent. Brock was definitely someone on this radar. Obviously, I brought up Bo Nix, and then there's Brian Thomas. All of those guys were you know let's say actually Bo. Every single one of these guys, I was higher on the consensus on, so I'm gonna give myself a little bit of a pat on the back as a scout. Let's go. But these are the types of moments you like to see. You like to see your guys go out and perform. But yeah, they put together great seasons. They have bright futures ahead of them. The NFL is in as bright of a spot as ever in terms of talent. We're never gonna run out of talent anytime soon. So obviously, this reinforces that. But okay, so moving on to the award that I would say, aside from defensive rookie of the year, this is probably the award that I struggled on the most outside of defensive rookie of the year. But defensive player of the year. We'll kickstart with you, Pierce.
Well, at first, just looking at the uh, finding the nominees and stuff, but then just overall looking at some of the players, you know, I would have Micah in that conversation if he wasn't hurt for the majority of the year. He's a demon off the edge, pressure wise.
Yeah.
T.J. Watt with just his presence on the field, he just demands so much attention, and he still makes plays. He's still a one man wrecking crew. Um, but this guy, the guy that I'm about to pick for Defensive Player of the Year, I think he's probably one of the most underrated corners in the game, I'd say. Because I barely think about him, which
Mm.
is, personally, it's kind of embarrassing because I wanted this guy to be drafted before Micah for the Cowboys back then.
I know you're gonna say yeah.
Patrick Surtain.
Yeah.
Uh,
Man, I thought it was gonna be the only one. I have newsflash.
no,
I have
like
Patrick Surtain as my pick. I
you,
thought I was gonna be the only one that picked him.
I'll be honest, when we were talking about this earlier, you said something. It's like, I wanted this guy drafted before Micah. And I was like, oh, I
Yeah.
think I know who he's talking about. But
Uh huh.
yeah, just looking at his stats, it's mind-boggling. Like, the guy was targeted 51 times. He was shadow rating 52.7% of the time, and he only gave up 29 catches, one touchdown, uh, broke up five passes. Like, the guy in 36, he's
Four
not
picks.
afraid to tackle. Four picks,
Yeah.
36 tackles. Took one
Oh
to the
wow,
house this year.
he had a 0% missed tackle rating. That is like
Yeah,
rare
that's
for a corner.
dude.
I can't
Like,
remember
he's
very many that have recorded that.
yeah, he's done a really good job this year, and I could get more and more into the because I found this website of just how like the percentages of like everything of yards of separation. Like, he was glue with some of the best receivers in the game, and
Yeah.
I yeah, that's my defensive player of the year. Like, you can't, you're shadowing the best receiver 50% of the time, and you're you know deflecting 11 passes. You're only allowing 29 catches, and only allowed one touchdown, and you got four picks to go along with it. It's hard to ignore. Hard to ignore for a guy who's been in the league for what now? This is his fourth year or third?
This would be
Third
fourth
year.
because
Fourth
it's
year?
I'm just thinking off of Micah because this is Micah's
Yeah.
fourth, so this would
Yeah,
be
that's right.
Pat's
Yeah.
fourth.
So, and
Yeah.
yeah, didn't he already get paid, or is he about to get paid?
That's a good question. He may have already. He probably already got paid,
Yeah,
but
I mean, you wouldn't let this guy have
regardless,
this
we know
big
it's
of a
going to be
year.
a
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
exactly. We know regardless it will or was
Yeah,
a
4 year,
market
96 million.
resetting deal.
yeah.
Yep,
I mean, right there, right there. I mean,
worth every penny.
yeah, worth every penny. He's your centerpiece. He's gonna shut down. Try. He's gonna do his best to shut down one side of the field. And if you do pick on him, he's gonna make you pay. So like that's my
Yeah.
guy. That's my guy for defensive player of the year. Patrick Surtain, the second,
All
as I
right,
should say.
Ayush, what is your pick here? I hang on. Oh, I know who it is. Do I know who it is?
I know who you're thinking of, and I thought about putting him, but I didn't.
Oh, good.
Um,
You didn't pick
you're,
McKinney?
McKinney, no, I have him in parentheses on my notebook right here
Oh
because I've got to
gosh.
talk about him because he's been great. Um, but the main two I was considering was Sertan, and the guy that I ultimately chose was TJ Watt. And I feel like this is just gonna be more of like a damn, here you go type of award. Like, I mean, he's
Yeah.
deserved it. I feel like in the past couple of years where he just hasn't won it over Miles Garrett. Um,
That's true.
and I mean, he's been great. 11 and a half sacks, six forced fumbles, 19 tackles for loss, a bunch of other great pressure stats, but they're just not like up to par to his, I guess, greatness in terms of just numbers wise. Um, it helps that Hayward's kind of having a really great year. Highsmith's been great, but I think they might just lean to the best player on arguably the best defense in the league. So that's why I'm leaning towards TJ. But yeah, I mean his missed tackle rate, I just looked at it, is actually insanely low right now. It's under 5% this season. Um,
And
he only missed three tackles this season out of the 61 that
Who's
he
that?
has.
Who's that from? Is that per reference?
This is yeah, this is reference.
Okay. Interesting,
Um,
because yeah, I and PFF always does their own thing, but PFS is 14.3 is his missed
uh,
tackle rating. So
PFF also
PFF
hates
always
TJ,
just does
so
their own thing. Yeah. Well,
so
yeah, they do. They do. And you work for PFF.
yeah. Well,
He
I don't I
works for
don't
PFF, guys.
I don't control that. I
He's an
don't control
op.
that. Hey,
Ayush is an op.
he's my pick for TJ, but he's my pick for DPOY. Don't
Yeah.
dox me, man. But
I'm
like
gonna dox you right now. Here in a second I'm gonna dox you.
just like flash it on the screen.
Yeah. Yeah. This is yeah, exactly. I'm learning the media portion here on our podcast thing, so I'm gonna
Yeah,
drop everything right now.
he's gonna be an expert by the end of the day. He's gonna
Yeah,
have all
exactly.
the jingles and stuff, all that you need. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, he's been great. Not the greatest that he's been capable of, obviously, but after just a like second place last year, second place like 3 years ago, third place a year before that. I mean, this is a guy that should have more DPOYs. I feel the media just might just be like, "Here you go, bro. Like, here's the
Yeah.
one that you've been waiting for, and you might get it this year."
should
Also,
have
Yeah,
they,
been
I
voted.
could totally see it.
I mean, I think people also just kind of favor D line over corners right now.
Yeah.
And that could also factor into, I mean, Gilmore's the last one that's won it at a secondary position, and it's been a while before that as well. So,
That is true. Yeah. Personally, I feel like TJ should have won it when he tied Strahan's record for a single season sack record. So
Oh, 100%.
should have
100%, yeah.
100% won it, but they gave
do
it
you
to
not
what
win it
they
that
gave it
year?
to Garrett that year. I think they gave it to Garrett
No,
that year.
he yeah, I
I
think
think he won.
so last year they gave it to Garrett. Did no, I don't
I
think
know
he won it in
last year
2021.
Garrett got
Let's
Was
20.
that
see.
the year that he broke the
What year
record?
did he win it?
He won it in 21.
Yeah,
21
he
is the year that he tied it.
Oh, never mind, he did.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So that's the only time he won it though,
Hmm.
right?
That's the only time
Yeah,
TJ's won it was when he broke the sack
But
tied the record.
yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
But he I think it was 2019. I think he should have won it. I think 2020 he should have won it. So it was just kind of and then I think 2023. He's had like 3 years in his career that he should have won it and he didn't. Um
Exactly.
but I
Hey,
don't think this is a year that he deserves it. And I get, I get what you say, but like so we brought up Pierce, you brought up Micah earlier. I just want to compare the numbers here because Micah missed what 5 games this season? One, two, three, four,
Yeah,
five,
roughly
six, seven,
4 or 5
eight,
games, man.
9, 10, 11. How many? What week is it now? It's week going into week 17. So we played 15 games. So he's
16,
missed
right?
5 games. Yeah, so he's missed 5 games. He's played 11 games. Yeah, no, he's missed 4 games. He's played 11 games. TJ Watt's played every single game. Uh, TJ has 47 pressures. Micah has 63, so lapping him.
Jesus.
Micah has 11. This is per PFF, by the way. Um, Micah has 11 sacks. TJ has 12. Micah has 12
Huh.
hits. TJ has 16. Micah has 40 hurries. TJ Watt has. Hang on. Hang on. Let me see.
I never realized how
Oh,
different PFF stats are from Pro
oh,
Football
here we go.
Reference.
19. JJ Watt has
Uh,
19 hurries. So I was waiting
JJ.
to use that eventually. I have more of those, by the way. So
that's good. But how many
this should be
or
cool.
pressures did
I'm a
you
good
say
producer.
Micah had?
Uh, Mike had 63, 47 for TJ
That's
in
Huh.
ridiculous,
five
man.
five less games.
That's
5
so.
Yeah,
less
that's a
games.
big more. That's where I'm sitting here. I'm like, I don't know, man, because also
I,
we were talking about missed tackle rating, and this isn't as big for edge rushers, but per PFF, I know reference has it differently, but PFF has
Yeah,
12.5 for Micah, 14.3 for TJ. Let's just look at um,
I
so
didn't realize how different it
TJ
was
has
on Pro Football Reference. It says Micah has like 41 pressures, TJ with 31, and Micah has like 20 hurries, TJ has 3 hurries. I never realized like how
Yeah,
different it would be between.
PFF always does it differently because if
Yeah,
you look at next gen's going to be a lot more consistent with like reference and what's another one? Player profiler will do some stuff like that. But yeah, PFF. I will say PFF has even though sometimes it's easy to like go against them, only whenever you only back them whenever it's your player. That's the rule with PFF. So if they're loving on Micah, then PFF's they rock. But
that's
if
true.
they're hating on Micah, then they
they
suck
hating
and
on
they
Micah.
should fire everyone. And Ayush is gonna be living on the streets because he's not employed by PFF
Please,
anymore.
please
But
no. I need a
um, but
job.
uh, but yeah, they PFF. I will say they have a lot more tools. They have more of a collaboration with teams, per what I've heard. They have more people at their disposal that are working for them. So I'd say in this, I would go with. Also, I paid a ton of money to get these stats, so I'm rocking with PFF today on their stats. Also, it's in the favor of my players, so hell yeah. But I'm not picking Micah as much, even though Micah has actually probably had his best season in terms of yeah, obviously missed a lot of time, but in terms of what he's put on the field when he's been on the field, especially post injury, because pre-injury he was actually not. I was worried about it. I thought we were going to be to the point where it was trading territory because he has another year because of his fifth year. But
5th year
I thought
option.
we were going to be at the point where end of the year we were going to be trading him away. He has been rock solid lately, but uh I do think that he should be actually in the conversation. He's not been in any conversations that I've heard about Defensive Player of the Year. He should be in the conversation. But Patrick Surtain, that's my guy. I don't know if there's a lot more that I can say that you didn't earlier, Pierce, but Pat's had a great year, and I think you're right, Ayush, about the fact that teams just or the league just doesn't like to pick defensive backs for this award. It's lame to me too because they have I think cornerback is probably I mean I know quarterback has like the most going on, but in terms of purely like the logistics of the position and what you actually have to do, I think corner is probably the most difficult position in the league because also
100%.
it's also super futile and players can be good one year, bad the other year, and then they'll be right back to being good. And it's like it has nothing to do with anything. It's just that's the way it is sometimes because the cornerback position just you kind of sometimes you're riding a high, sometimes you're not. I guess that's similar for every position, but it's extremely associated with this position. And the concept of having to backpedal, turn, read coverages, read the hips of the receiver, read the feet of the receiver, being able to stem the route. Cornerback is a difficult position. I think Patrick Surtain has played it to a T this year. And there's really been no one. The most yards he's allowed per PFF is week 1 against Seattle. He had allowed 39 yards to probably the best receiver trio in the league, right? JSN, DK, Lockett. Otherwise, just it's been less than that every single game. The most receptions he's allowed in the game is 5 for 35 yards too, so nothing. He has 4 picks, 5 pass breakups, 56 passer rating allowed. That's nuts. That's nuts. So he's had a great year in my opinion.
Don't throw
Yeah,
it to Satan Island,
it's
bro.
getting to that point, man. I think he's starting to earn. He deserves a nickname. Do the Broncos have a little bit of a nickname for him? Do they? I gotta
I don't know if they
believe.
do. They should
Broncos
start
have no
making
aura,
one.
bro.
Yeah,
Broncos have
that's
no aura
true.
to
I
keep
gotta
them up.
believe they.
Broncos have no aura.
Well, I guess they have PS2, but
Yeah, that's just like
yeah,
his
that's kind of
initials.
cool. Yeah, that's kind of
PS2?
It's his initials, but it's also kind of like it's a standalone like it's like TO. People know who
Yeah.
TO is, even though it's his
Oh my
initials.
gosh.
But still, like I wish they had like a cool nickname, like we have for a freaking kick returner, bro. Turpy Speed. We got a nickname for
What
a
kind of
kick returner.
nickname is
What?
that?
Turpy Speed. You never heard that? Yeah,
No, I've never heard that
the running
nickname.
thing.
That's a
Yeah,
weird.
check out Cowboys Twitter, bro. That's not weird at all. That's cool. That's cool. Our kick returner has a nickname, but you're maybe defensive player of the year corner ain't got nothing. So
That's a crazy.
yeah, actually,
Okay.
newsflash: Devontae Turpin is my MVP, but we'll worry about that later.
Makes
Just kidding.
sense. Makes sense.
Okay.
You don't have to
Let's
lie.
move this along. Okay, offensive player of the year. Let's I think we can fly through this one because I think this one's an easy one, and then MVP is gonna have a longer conversation. Okay, so Pierce, super quick, go.
If Joe was healthy, it would be Joe. But I'm taking Saquon Barkley. Almost
Boom.
2,000 yards total. Well, actually, no, 2,000 yards total offense.
Yeah.
2 receiving touchdowns with 200. Hold on, 276 receiving yards, 2 touchdowns, 31 catches, 345 total touches for a guy who has already had a plethora of lower leg injuries, ankle, ACL. Uh, the guy carried the ball, touched the ball almost 350 times this year, and looked like a brand new man. Like
Yeah, exactly.
2,114 yards total as of today, and 15 total touchdowns. Yeah, that's my offensive player of the year.
Yeah.
Enough said.
Yeah. I'm just gonna point this out. So he's still chasing the rushing record. I don't know if he's gonna get it. He still has, I think, 256 is the number, but he is playing a Cowboys defense. Yeah, the rushing yards record. The Eric Dickerson set. He's playing the Cowboys, who might be without Eric Kendricks this week. And then this is a fun part though. If he is gonna break it, it's gonna be against the Giants. That would be a storyline right there.
Yeah,
to do it against them.
Yeah, if he plays at all, he's playing against the Giants.
I feel like he's gonna put it all. I don't think he's gonna let him sit or let them sit him if they are in the position where they lock down the 2 and can't get the 1. I don't think that's gonna happen. Okay, so both of us got Saquon.
Yeah.
Yeah. Both of us got Saquon. Who do you got for offensive player?
I put Saquon as well. I mean, he has 13 touchdowns. He has so many more if Hurts didn't touch push every other play. So I do want to give credit to Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase might triple crown this year, and he might not get Offensive Player of the Year. So it's just tough, but I think Saquon has been the better. He's been so efficient. I mean, he's averaging 120 yards a game. So I mean, he's been insane.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's a good shout out too, because it actually kind of reminded me, offensive player of the year wise, of last year. It was everyone knew it was going to be Chris McCaffrey, but then CD Lamb was sitting right there. He's like, "What did I do? I did everything."
Yeah,
I think
That's
that's
true.
kind of similar this year. Is everyone knows it's gonna be Saquon, but Jamar did everything because I mean, also if you just add it up statistically, both those running backs, both these wide receivers, they both put a very, very similar numbers. So
Hmm.
very similar races in that sense. Okay, this is the blockbuster, obviously. Okay, MVP. I think this is a really fun MVP year. There's going to be a lot of controversy about who wins this award, in my opinion. And we brought it up earlier, but if Joe Burrow was able to have a defense that could tackle and play any sort of football and wasn't playing at a high school level, then he would probably be an MVP, strong MVP candidate here. Uh, okay, so anyways, Pierce, who is your pick for MVP and why?
well, my MVP, it was a tough one because I looked at Josh Allen for the majority of the year. He's been playing some really good football. I mean, just with the past month, he's beaten the Chiefs. Well, not him alone, but like the Bills
Yeah.
have beaten the Chiefs
Well, some has been
and
him
the
alone. He's
Lions.
carried some of
That
these. Yeah.
that's true, yeah. But like the Lions and the Chiefs, he's beaten the two best teams in football right now, and he's I would say he's okay. He's a little better in terms of the turnovers, but I mean, there's just one guy that I feel like narrative wise, people thought that he wasn't going to last as a QB back in
Mm,
2018 when he was drafted. I, I with that being said, my MVP I think it's going to be Lamar Jackson. Uh,
yeah.
Not only is he doing it with his arm this year, he's doing it with his legs. I mean, he's now the all-time leading rusher for quarterbacks. He passed Vic this past game. Uh, Not only like he's a touchdown or no, he's uh, I think he's 4 touchdowns shy of 40, and
Yeah.
for a
For
guy
well, if you
who
add his rushing though, I think
yeah
he's
he's
over
at
40.
40. I think he's
Yeah.
actually at yeah,
Yeah, you might be
but
right. Yeah.
yeah, but the bigger thing that surprised me the most about it is like earlier the past couple of years when he won MVPs, he struggled with protecting the football, you know, throwing interceptions. He's only thrown 4 this
Yep.
year to go along with uh here, give me a sec. I'm just getting to my yeah. Almost 4,000 yards passing at 3,955 yards, 39 touchdowns, 4 picks, 4 rushing touchdowns with 852 yards. Like, I mean, he's doing it all on the field.
Yep.
He's got good weapons, and I mean, just they're not the record doesn't show that they're the best, but they've got one of the best defenses, and I'd say one of the most potent offenses in the league as well. So I mean, as
Yep.
long as 8 is on the field and he's clicking, I mean, I'd say he's that's where I'm leaning. I'm leaning MVP to Lamar Jackson, back to back, right? I think he won last year, didn't
Hmm.
he?
Yeah. It would be back to back, even though last year he didn't deserve it, in my
That's
opinion.
true.
But that's a topic for another day. Ayush, who do you got?
Man, I said Lamar as well. I mean, I don't think voter fatigue really exists in the NFL. I mean, you can look at the NBA and say there's voter fatigue with some of their MVP voting, but I don't see that in the
Mm,
NFL. Um, Obviously, the record is slightly worse than last year. He went to 13-3 as I started last year. He's like 11-5 right now. But his
That's
numbers
true.
are absolutely insane. I mean, this is similar to I think 2020 Rodgers MVP numbers.
Hmm.
I mean,
mm.
I think yards might be a little less, but he's made up for that rushing the ball. I mean, same amount of touchdowns. I think even less interceptions than
Yeah,
Rodgers
and I
threw.
think was it less interceptions?
I think he
It was
threw five in
ballpark similar.
2020,
I
and he
think he
has
threw 2.
5? Okay. Well, that's probably what he's going
Rogers.
to land at. I mean, potentially, I guess. But he's
I
got
it's
thought
something to
around.
play
Rogers
for. I
only threw
wonder if
like
you can
2.
slip one out.
I think he threw five total in
Rogers? Well,
5.
2020.
in
Rogers.
2020, yeah, in 2020, I think he threw 4 or 5, something like that. Yeah, I
Okay.
can hang on. Let me
It was
I can
ridiculous.
confirm it.
Yeah,
I just remember
because
that
yeah,
year
like,
it was ridiculous.
but yeah, I mean, he's been, and I think what sets him apart from Josh Allen is
It was
Josh
6.
6 in 2020.
Yeah.
It must be like 5 in 21 or something. Because I think it threw less.
It was 4 and 21.
Oh, dang, yeah. But yeah, I think what sets him apart is that I think Josh has had just worse individual games than Lamar has. I mean, you can look like the Texans game that he had. I think there's one more that I don't have the stuff put up. I think if Josh Allen had proposed Haley Steinfeld maybe earlier in the season, he would win MVP.
Yeah.
But um, but yeah, I mean, he would. It would, yeah. It was really mainly that Houston game. It was 9 for 30. So I think that really just kind of hurts his odds just a little bit. Um, but I mean, both of them
Indy
have been
2 was a
having
bad game.
Indy.
Yeah, he had 2 picks, mm, one rushing touchdown that game,
Oh yeah.
and he had like
We're talking about the
330
Patriots
yards,
game.
but he was.
Oh, the
No, I'm
Patriots
talking
game.
about Indy. Oh yeah,
That was
Patriots
pretty
game was
bad.
rough too. Of
It
course,
was
I didn't
rough for
even
him against the Patriots too
bring that up for
this
some
past
reason.
week.
Hmm.
Yeah, it was they. That was a game that it felt. I think we talked about this last week, Ayush, but it felt like a trap game that Bills were not supposed to win, but they still won.
Yeah, I agree. But yeah, I mean,
Um,
I think Lamar's numbers have just been absolutely amazing, and so that might give him the edge this year over Josh. But Josh is for sure number two and a very close second this year as well.
yeah. So I will say the media itself seems a lot more split on this than us. I'm going Lamar as well. I think the media itself is kind of almost like 50-50 on Josh and Lamar from at least what I've seen. Which I mean, I to kind of quantify that, I think that can start to be eliminated now because of the fact that before the Ravens were like they were the 5 seed, and there was a point where I think they were treading to that 6 seed spot. Now they're sitting at the 3 seed. The Bills are the 2 seed. So if we're gonna talk about who has a better team, who's in better position, it's really not that different anymore. And uh, I think the Ravens defense itself has not been that great, to be honest. They've been a little bit
Really?
they haven't been near as buttoned up. Yeah, I think they're a lot lower in terms of statistics. I think particularly their ability to uh, stop the pass. Roquan
Yeah,
Smith has not been the same level as before either as a uh, linebacker.
their pass
But
has been mediocre, but I think their rush defense is like tops of the league. If I'm not wrong.
It's tops in the league. Their
Hmm.
run. You said their run defenses.
Yeah,
Let's see. Yeah, you're right. Run defense is top of the league. Ravens pass defense is wow, fourth worst in the league.
yeah.
So that's where it gets you. And then above average in terms of points allowed. But hang on, let me check takeaways here. Um, the takeaways are uh bottom quarter of the leagues. So yeah, their defense and typically has been top 5 in most of those categories on a year-to-year basis. So Lamar has had a lot more on him compared to last year in terms of the run defense or the defense sake. But yeah, he's been really impressive to me this year, obviously. But I do think that it's kind of difficult to really now that the win loss type of numbers have kind of gotten closer. I think it's hard to sit here and say, "Oh, we're going to go ahead and pick Josh Allen just because he has more wins." I don't think we're at that point anymore. And just as a general statement, like you guys brought up earlier, the stats just don't give anything to Josh Allen. These
Hmm.
numbers are much more in
It's
Lamar's
only
favor.
Josh only has rush touchdowns over Lamar off of what I'm
Yeah,
looking at, in I guess one less game.
yeah. The evolution of Lamar Jackson as a passer has been incredible. And I'm not taking away
Mhm.
anything from Josh either because Josh
Oh no.
has gotten way better too. I mean, obviously Josh has always had a cannon of an arm, but he's become way more accurate. He's become the blockbuster is that he's way more safer with the football. Josh is. He went from 18. the 4 years leading up to this, he went from 11, 15, 17, 18 to 6 interceptions. That's a
Ooh,
gigantic drop off.
yeah,
It was
Yeah.
18
it's
to
huge.
6. And it's not like last year was an outlier. It wasn't an outlier. That was who he is. So that was a huge turnaround. And I think that's what people that and the wins, that's what people wanted to ride off of for him. But Lamar's a guy, in my opinion. Lamar has gotten better.
Lamar has the head-to-head win too. I
As
forgot they played this season.
Oh, that's true. But
Yeah.
I think Lamar's ability as a passer, his evolution as a passer has been just magnificent, and that's what wins him the MVP in my eyes. Um, so, uh, yeah, that's gonna wrap it up. So let's really quick, let's just go back down the list to recap it. But comeback player of the year, Pierce had Dan Quinn, LaFleur for Ayush. Oh, hang on, that's coach of the
Coach
year.
of the year.
And then
Yeah.
I had
Coach,
O'Connell for coach of the
coach of
year.
the year.
Comeback player, yeah, man, they strapped up the pads and they
Mojo.
went back on the field. Comeback
Comeback.
player of the year, we all had Joe Burrow. Defensive rookie of the year, I had Jared Verse. Pierce had Quinion Mitchell. Ayush had Edgerrin Cooper. Um, Offensive rookie of the year, we all went for Jane Daniels had the sweep. Defensive player of the year, Pierce and I both had Pat Surtain. Ayush had TJ Watt. Offensive player of the year, Saquon Barkley all the way around, and MVP was Lamar Jackson all the way around. So, yeah, obviously another good year of football. I think this year was kind of, man, this may have been the best year of football that I can remember in a while. And that goes hand in hand with NFL and college football. There was just so much and like entertaining games this year. Edge of the seat type of games. And Yeah, I'm very impressed with football this year, and we still have 2 more weeks to go. So,
That's true.
well, I guess 2 of the games have already been played. One's being played right now. How is that going, by the way? It's a Bears Seahawks tonight? I think
Snooze fest.
Just news
snooze
fest.
fest. Yeah, that's what I would
3-0.
assume.
It's almost halftime.
Um,
Oh
Three.
gosh.
Wow. Yeah, really, really entertaining. That goes right on cue for the fact that I was saying that football's been really great this year.
Oh, don't you have
Horrible
JSN playing right
football
now?
game going on.
Don't you? Don't you have Jason playing right now?
Oh yeah, you're right. I do. I bet he's based on the score. I bet he's not
Oh, well,
doing
yeah,
too
Seahawks
much.
defense. Seahawks
He
defense
has
too.
a single catch. He is cooking right now. One catch, 7 yards. Um. Yeah. All right. Yeah. And these awards can change. What is there? 29-12. I'll
Yeah.
come back. I'll come back.
Hey, all I can say is you
Uh.
AJ
guys
Brown's
aren't eating a
questionable
Carolina
though.
Reaper.
What's up?
All I can say is you guys aren't having to eat a Carolina Reaper pepper for a punishment for finishing last in fantasy.
Oh, that's
Oh
tough.
no,
That's tough.
Yeah,
that's
that's me.
crazy. No
Not
way.
excited about
That's
it at
tough.
all.
Oh man,
You have Dillon help you with your lineup next year, bro.
yeah. Godspeed, brother. Godspeed.
I thought I drafted well
Um,
too. I thought I did well, but
Who sold?
injuries and
uh,
poor play.
all right. Well, I'm gonna wrap it up for us today. Another good episode in the books. Again, Pierce, happy to have you on.
Thank y'all
And
again.
we'll be back. We'll be back next week. What is today? Today's the 26th, so sometime
See.
early next week. Uh, but actually, yeah. So I guess, yeah, probably early next week we'll hopefully be back in the war room for another episode. But yeah, thank you guys for listening. And uh, hopefully we see you before New Year's. But happy New Year's. All right. Man, I tried to play the outro, but it won't go. Why won't it go? Oh,
I
there we
got
go.
scared.